dear Newsmark viewers, I hope you're healthy and happy and having a good day. And we are the Newsmark team, continuing to bring you important developments in the Russia-Ukraine war. And today we will share information about the very important operation carried out by the Ukrainian armed forces on the Crimean Peninsula, because the Crimean Peninsula part of the war is of great importance, both strategically and symbolically. As Russia's attempts to open a new front in Crimea in order to break Ukrainian pressure continue, the Ukrainian armed forces are also focused on this region and continue to pursue the goal of retaking Crimea. The storm seems really quite close. So in recent days, we have seen the Ukrainian armed forces launch a new offensive against Crimea. In these offensives, ATACMS missiles were activated and large-scale explosions occurred on the Crimean Peninsula. And according to reports, ammunition depots and a number of Russian checkpoints were targeted. This attack is considered a serious blow against the Russian presence on the Crimean Peninsula. However, it is not yet possible to obtain clear information about the developments behind and the latest ATSM attacks on the Crimean Peninsula. Communication difficulties in the conflict zone and restrictions on news flow, of course, prevent getting a complete picture. However, it is clear that the Ukrainian armed forces are stepping up their operations in Crimea and targeting Russian checkpoints. So, what is the situation in the region according to unofficial information? Let's analyze it together. But before moving on to our report, I would like to make a small reminder. As Newsmark team, we strive to bring you the developments regarding the Russia-Ukraine war. So do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so that you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. I also read all of your comments on our videos, so please continue to share your ideas about our content in the comments. Tell us in the comments what content you would like to see on the Newsmark channel. Let's start if you are ready. Newsmark reports. So as the conflict between Russia and Ukraine continues, the Crimean Peninsula remains of strategic importance to both sides. The peninsula was occupied by the Russian armed forces in 2014 and has witnessed many surprising events. The Ukrainian armed forces, on the other hand, have put up a very effective resistance. Each Ukrainian attack caused a panic in Crimea, and Russian troops in the region were in a different position than before the war and were constantly receiving reinforcements, but it was not enough. So in recent days, the Ukrainian armed forces have launched a new offensives against the Russian troops in Crimea. The details of this attack from the Russian sources were as follows. The massive attacks on Crimea, which began with ATACMS missiles purchased from the United States as part of the new financing package, forces to ask the command of the Russian airspace forces some very uncomfortable questions. How is it that 27 months after the start of the war, military airfields and air defense positions in Crimea have not been prepared in any engineering terms? Why were no protective structure for military equipments and warehouses built in the region, which even Western curators of the Ukrainian armed forces consider a legitimate target for the airstrikes? Just 2 years ago, our engineers proposed to build protective hangars for aircraft from prefabricated steel elements reinforced from outside with earth or gabions, and reliability covering the aircraft from the main flying vehicle, but not a single hangar like this was built. At the same time, we lost so many planes on the ground from weapons in the air that the cost of this was many times higher than the cost of the capital reinforced concrete shelters for airplanes in the entire European part of Russia. So why was this not done? Why 27 months after the start of the air defense systems, our air defense systems still stand in open areas and are not covered even with ordinary gabions, and not to mention the curtains that prevents fragmentation? Why are warehouses with open storage of equipment, weapons and ammunition, fuels and lubricants still used in Crimea? Since last fall, we have been warning that the armed forces of Ukraine will concentrate all its forces on the attacks on Crimea, explaining that for Kiev, nightmarish Crimea is perhaps the only way to demonstrate their success. It is very sad to see that the Aerospace Forces Command is treating this threat with carelessness. So according to the Russian sources, the situation on the Crimean Peninsula is becoming increasingly serious, and the Russian armed forces are still at the risk of losing control over the region. Explosions have recently been reported in various parts of Crimea, and in particular, the number of explosions in the port areas and strategic points has increased. So according to local sources, the explosions were caused by the attacks by the Ukrainian armed forces with ATACMS missiles, and the port of Sevastopol and its surroundings have been affected by the attacks, and port activities have largely ground to all halts. So according to the latest reports, almost all port activities have been halted around the Sevastopol, and many Russian checkpoints and outposts have been relocated. Apparently, the security situation on the Crimean Peninsula is gradually deteriorating, and the tension in the region are rising. So attacks on the interior of the Crimean Peninsula are a major concern for the security of this strategically important region. In addition to the port areas, inland supply lines and munition depots are really vital elements supporting the operational power of the Russian military. Therefore, the destruction of inland targets is considered as an important tactical move in the Ukrainian armed forces into Crimea strategy. So according to information from local sources, it is reported that the Ukrainian armed forces carried out operations in the interior of Crimea during the recent offensives. Especially ammunition depots and railroads used as supply lines were targeted with ATACMS missiles fired by Ukraine. As a result of these attacks, it is said and stated that there have been violent explosions at many points, while the Russian occupation administration and the central administration of the Russian Federation have not yet made a large-scale statements. We only have the statements of official Russian sources that we have just shared. So it seems that the Ukrainian armed forces are confidently advancing towards their goals, and it is not easy to achieve these goals, but it is not impossible. All it takes is patience, faith, and time. The Russian armed forces, on the other hand, have none of these due to the mistakes of the leadership, and this prevents the Russian troops from holding on to the territories they occupy. The Russian armed forces have largely lost the ability to cope with this scale of losses, and this makes it even more difficult for the Russian army to face Ukraine. But what do you think? What do you think are the reasons for the Russian sources not to take Crimea? And do you think the Russian military can hold on to the Crimean Peninsula for much longer? And do you think it is likely that the Ukrainian armed forces will continue to target Crimea? How true are the claims about the increasing losses of the Russian army? And can ATACMS missiles have a major impact on the front line? Do you think more ATACMS missiles should be provided to the Ukrainian army? Let me know in the comments, because I read and I care about all of your comments.